Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to your Daily Penguin. This is our tour through my Penguin Classic wall, and yesterday, or not yesterday, I didn't do any videos yesterday, sorry about that, but the day before that, we were in the Georgian period. We were in England right at the doorstep of the Victorian era, and I kind of thought that's where we'd stay, but no, no. We're going backwards in time. We're going back to when Queen Elizabeth I was breathing her last. This author was born in 1605, so it should have occurred much earlier in this Penguin tour if I had organized my Penguin Classic wall completely from start to finish. But I didn't. I haven't done that. I did that roughly, generally, for the beginning, for the earliest literature. But with exceptions, and nothing else after that, except a couple of shelves we saw. I put all the same books by the same authors together. Even that isn't always true, and I think we'll be gladder for that. I think that will add to the fun of going through this sort of randomly. Certainly that's true today, because today we're going backwards in time to Sir Thomas Browne. This is a Penguin Classic volume from 50 years ago, edited by C.A. Petrides, who does a fantastic job. It's a great, learned introduction. You can always, in the 21st century, you can always tell a learned introduction because great number of quotes in other languages will not be translated. That's a dead giveaway to another era. when you would have a quote in French and you would just leave it in French because you assumed your readers could read it. No book would do that. No general audience book would do that today. But Petrides does a great job otherwise as well. The footnotes that follow you along the bottom of all of these pages are great. Just great. They are the full gamut between hair-splicing scholarly questions and just filling you in on some reference that Browne knew and all of his colleagues knew, but you don't know. The hesitation in my voice here is about the author. Thomas Browne was a polymath and a multitudinous thinker. He touches on a lot of subjects. He wrote a handful, 5 rather amorphous books that sort of range all over creation, a lot like Burton on The Melancholy of Crowds, only smaller, shorter. And because the books aren't doctrinaire and because they aren't easily classifiable, they have been grappled onto by a great number of readers who like to talk about this author as if he was the greatest unknown thing that's ever existed. There's a whole category of such writers who will say, yeah, I know, Milton, sure, Donne, sure, but what about Thomas Browne, man? I'm almost tempted to say that he's the prototypical dude bro author, although he himself is not, and had no intention of that. You could have gone back to the 1630s and explained to him in non-21st century terminology what a dude bro author is, and you could easily have done that. I could have done that. And if I had done that, he would have absolutely rejected the concept, and I would have agreed. Nevertheless, no author can be castigated for how their work is used. I confess, when it comes to this author, the scholarly introductions to works and the notes, the elucidations in the back by whichever editor, are almost always just as interesting to me as the book itself, as the author himself. This author's never really done it for me. He's shown up in other works, been discussed. There's a bookcase here in this room of authors writing about previous authors, writing introductions and prefaces and reviews and whatnot. Thomas Browne appears in a lot of those volumes. I guarantee you, if there were a new anthology of his work, if Viking came out with a new anthology of his work with new introductions and notes and whatnot, every single review organ in the English-speaking world would write about it at length. Every book editor in the English-speaking world, in their little card caddy or whatever the electronic version of that is, has someone they can tap for 3,500 quick words about Thomas Browne. Every single literary editor does. I am the smallest fry of such literary editors. I was a managing editor of Open Letters Monthly for 10 years, and I'm an editor at Open Letters Review, the successor to Open Letters Monthly, and I have been a literary editor in other places, all minor, all very, very minor, And yet I myself could easily tap a writer tomorrow if I somehow needed 3,500 words on Thomas Browne and didn't want to write them myself. He's that kind of writer. There's a lot of antiquarian stuff in his books. There's a lot of weird and off the beaten path stuff. There's for some people, a very pleasing lack of coherence in a lot of large chunks of his larger works. So he tends to appeal to people who will not, for instance, to revive the name, just hunker down and spend 3 hours a day studying Milton. They won't do that. That for them is boring, whereas this author is not. I guess it takes all types. But your Penguin, this is an older Penguin classic, the kind with the block printing and the color coded spine, and I wouldn't upgrade it unless this has I think 4 of Browne's major works and selections from the 5th and longest work. And the best thing about this volume for me, this is terrible, I know, but the best thing about this volume for me isn't by Sir Thomas Browne. It's by Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson wrote a life of Thomas Browne that is great, just fantastic, so much better than anything the man himself ever wrote. But that's included in here, and that was an editorial choice on the part of the editor, on the part of the board at Penguin. That was an editorial choice to put that in here instead of more of Browne's own work. I approve of it, but I have that Johnson Browne essay in with a whole bunch of other Browne essays, in with a whole bunch of other Johnson essays. I confess I hardly ever go back to this volume itself. I did once upon a time when Browne was a major character in the novel of the moment, the novel of the year, that particular year. I went back to this and reread a couple of works. I think I read what did I read? I think I've read Religio Medici. That's the thing that he's known for, and I think I just reread that. Doesn't take long to do, but if you're like me, you're going to finish it and think, okay, well, that was interesting, but what did I read? What was the point of that? So I'm sorry, it's going to be a lukewarm type thing here. I have had annoying letters, and then in the age of the internet, annoying emails from butterfly readers, people who like to ask me, what about this? Okay, now what about this? Okay, now what about this over here? Okay, now what about this over here? And I know they're not testing me. I know there's nothing aggressive or insulting involved. But I always want to say, and I often do say to those people, well, does any of this matter to you? Or are you just bouncing from one subject to another? Do you actually plan on reading any of this stuff? Or are you just going from flower to flower to flower like a bumblebee? And it's been my experience over the decades with a lot of those bumblebee readers that they will bring up this guy as if he is. They also bring up in The Melancholy of Crowds. They'll bring up this guy as if he's some sort of silver bullet, as if he's some sort of hidden Masonic key to literature. That there's John Donne and there's John Milton and whatnot, but what about Thomas Browne, huh? And I don't understand that. So your Penguin recommendation section today is a little bit fraught. He's certainly interesting to read, definitely. But there's a thing here. The highly modulated rhythms of Sir Thomas Browne's prose encompass a tonal range unique by any standards. That is not true. His interests included theology as much as embryology, and philology no less than cartography. That's true, but it's not unique. There's a tendency to attach a lot of hyperbole to this author. And so recommending him is a tricky thing. If you keep in mind, if you read him in the proper context, then yeah, he's definitely interesting to read. I'll leave my recommendation there. If you're a bumblebee reader, if you're one of those people, whether you're asking me or whether you're just showing off on social media or whatever, I know a lot of those readers, even in the 21st century, more in fact in the 21st century than ever before, because we live in the age of distraction. And if you're one of those people, then you might be wondering, oh well, should I read him? Oh well, should I read him then? Oh, here's a new name. Should I read him? What about him? My strongest advice to you would be to take a long weekend away from social media and stop being a Bumblebee reader, regardless of authors, regardless of whether Thomas Browne is any good. Thomas Browne. What about the Makioka sisters? Henry Ford ever write anything interesting? What about female poets of the 17th century who were blind? And on and on and on and on and on. My strongest suggestion to Bumblebee readers would be take a moment to stop being one, because it's a total waste of your time and mine. But if you're not one of those and you're curious about this author, I would say pick one work. All of this stuff will be on Project Gutenberg. All of this stuff will be free online. Just pick one work. Religio Medici is the work he's best known for. Pick that and read it and see if it makes any interest. See if it interests you at all, genuinely interests you at all. And then if it does, you can move on from there. But this is, that's the kind of Penguin Classic recommendation I make when I'm not singing the praises of the author. We'll get plenty of authors whose praises I will sing, but not this author. And that brought us back in time too. I don't know if we'll be going forward again into the future. I don't know what the next book is. I haven't made a point of not looking, so we'll find out together. I will wrap this up for now. I'll see you in your next Daily Penguin. Thank you, BookTube.